Imagine a place where danger lurks underground, fortunes are made in the shadows, and desperation drives people to risk it all, only to meet a fate no one deserves. Now picture a police standoff, a chilling discovery of lifeless bodies, and a government that seems to care more about the law than about the human beings buried beneath its weight. Is it survival or crime, tragedy or injustice? And when rules collide with the God-given right to live, who's really in the wrong? Welcome to Stilfontein, where the gold is illegal, the bullets are real, and the stories will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about borders, poverty, and human dignity. Stick around, because what happens next will make your jaw drop, and maybe even change how you see the world. Stay tuned, and don't forget to subscribe to Zimwaves TV. Now picture this, Stilfontein, a town you probably haven't thought much about since geography class, is suddenly making headlines, and not for a grand discovery of gold or the unveiling of a mining wonder. No, it's for a standoff between the police and people often dismissed with the term illegal miners. Oh, how we love convenient labels. If history has taught us anything, it's that attaching a neat little word like illegal to people allows us to look away. No need to think too hard. They broke the law, right? Case closed. Or is it? Let's unpack this tragedy, one grim fact at a time. A mass recovery of bodies has been underway, and the numbers keep rising like a macabre stock exchange. Investors in misery seem to be doing well these days. How many lives have been lost in this disaster?
South African rescuers ended their attempts on Thursday to find anyone left in an illegal gold mine near the town of Stilfontein. At least 78 people died during a police siege there. Police had encircled the mine and cut off food and water supplies since August in an effort to force the miners out so they could be arrested. The Giwasu Labour Union called it the worst state-sponsored massacre since the end of the apartheid. A rescue operation finally began on Monday after a court order. Patrick Asaneng is the acting police commissioner for the Northwest Province. He said on Wednesday that 246 people have been rescued.
The two volunteers has since come to the surface, and they have indicated to us that they have combed the surface, the underground, and according to them, they can confirm that there are no longer corpses or bodies underground.
On Thursday morning, a cylindrical metal cage with a camera inside was sent down for the last time. The survivors have been arrested and charged with illegal immigration, trespass, illegal mining, and other offences. Most of them are from Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and Lesotho. The police have said they were enforcing a government crackdown on illegal mining, and that to have allowed food and water down during the siege would have meant, quote, allowing criminality to thrive. Illegal mining cost South Africa over $3 billion last year, according to the mining minister. During the siege, police removed a pulley system the miners had previously been using to get in and out. Community leaders and lawyers have alleged there was no way for them to climb out. The pulley was later restored and removed several times during months of negotiations and legal action, according to civil society advocates and community members involved in supporting the miners. The police have denied blocking the miners' exit.
The answer depends on who you ask. Police sources give one number, community members another, and the truth likely falls somewhere in between. You'd think with so much technology, counting bodies would be the easy part. But this is not just a counting exercise. It's a human tragedy, raw, painful, and avoidable. The actions of the police are nothing short of clinical, dispassionate, efficient in the way only bureaucracy can be. To them, it seems a dead miner is a statistic, a cold entry in a ledger marked case closed. Their approach is not without precedent. Policing in these matters has long been about enforcing laws, not pondering the soul-crushing poverty that drives people to burrow into dangerous tunnels for a few grams of gold. The law is clear, they say. Mining without a license is illegal, period. Their job is to enforce the law. Sympathy? Compassion? Apparently, those are luxuries best left for poets and dreamers. Meanwhile, government officials, never ones to let a crisis go to waste, have dutifully made their statements.
sent down there. So we are investigating a number of focus areas, one being that food that was sent down to the illegal miners were being kept by kingpins that are controlling what is happening down there. We're also investigating allegations that the majority of these illegal miners were kidnapped to come here. We were having conversations with some of them that have been retrieved shortly, and they indicate that they were brought here under false pretenses, under false job opportunities. They were not given a clear picture of what would be happening in Stilfontein. Some of them have not seen the light of day for more than a year now. So it's quite shocking revelations that intelligence and our detectives are following up. So on the issue of the kingpins, we feel that those that are blaming government are shifting the goalpost. The real people that should be charged with what has happened here is the kingpins that have recruited these illegal miners, majority of them being illegal immigrants in the country that were desperate for jobs. So they preyed on that particular desperation and convinced these persons to come down here to conduct this illegal mining. So we are searching for those kingpins. We do know there are some kingpins that have already been retrieved and have resurfaced and are already in police custody. We are working on that particular information, but we do believe that there are those kingpins that have been on the surface and calling the shots underground.
Are there leads that you are following as far as that matter is concerned of kingpins?
Absolutely, it is a matter that has been being investigated for quite some time now. We have our intelligence operatives that are on the ground following each and every information that is sent down.
There have been murmurs about addressing the root causes, promises to investigate, and vague references to economic inclusion. But here's a thought. Where were these solutions before the bodies started piling up? Was anyone in the corridors of power thinking about how hunger makes people desperate, how survival instinct trumps legality when your children are starving? It's easy to talk about economic policies and development programs from the comfort of an air-conditioned office. It's much harder to look into the hollow eyes of a child whose parents may never come home because they dare to defy the odds underground. Now let's talk about the community. The people who live and breathe the same dusty air, who hear the whispers of fate in the creaks of mining shafts. There's resilience here, a kind of tragic heroism. Communities came together, providing food and whatever aid they could muster. But was it enough? Was it timely? Some will say it was too little, too late. Food parcels do little to fill the aching void left by lost lives. It's hard to feed a corpse, no matter how nutritious the meal. And so we find ourselves grappling with a moral dilemma as old as time. Is it more important to obey the laws of man or to honor the God-given right to survive? The answer isn't simple. Laws exist to maintain order. Without them, chaos reigns. But when laws prioritize profit over people, when they crush the vulnerable instead of protecting them, can they still claim the moral high ground? The police, in their robotic enforcement, acted according to the book. But where was their humanity? When men and women risk their lives in death traps because hunger leaves them no choice, is it really justice to treat them like criminals? Is it right to wash your hands of empathy just because the statute says you can? The government? They'll no doubt launch an inquiry. We'll get a report, a few recommendations, and a promise to do better. But can you eat a report? Can hope be found in yet another set of bureaucratic words? Stilfontein stands as a reminder that the real gold is not in the tunnels. It's in the lives that are precious beyond measure. Perhaps it's time to mine a little more compassion and a little less indifference. So as the dust settles and the dead are counted, let us remember, it's easy to obey the law when your belly is full. It's much harder to judge when you've walked in the shoes of the desperate. And maybe, just maybe, it's time for the miners of the world, legal or otherwise, to find a little justice buried beneath the rocks. And here's where the plot thickens, like a badly written political drama. You see, most of the people risking life and limb in the belly of Stilfontein's mines aren't even South African. They're foreigners, immigrants from neighboring countries where hope went on holiday decades ago and never came back. Now, before anyone gets their patriotic feathers ruffled, let's talk about what that really means and what kind of choices these people have. Spoiler alert, there aren't many. South Africa's stringent immigration rules are like an elite nightclub with a velvet rope and a list. If you have the right degrees, critical skills, or connections, you're welcomed with open arms. If you're a skilled electrician, doctor, or tech wizard, there's a red carpet. But if you're a poor man with calloused hands and nothing but a will to work, well, that door doesn't just stay closed, it's slammed in your face. The immigration laws make it nearly impossible for people with low-level qualifications to enter legally, even though this very country was built on the backs of migrant laborers from across southern Africa. The mines of Johannesburg, the railroads, and the farms that once fueled this economy, none of these would exist without foreign labor. South Africa's Industrial Revolution was powered by human sweat imported from across the Limpopo. But now there's a no-entry sign for the very descendants of those builders. Here's the bitter irony. If you can watch desperate people drown in the Mediterranean trying to reach Europe, you must understand, desperation is a powerful force. It overrides fear. It laughs in the face of danger. So of course, people will cross borders illegally to reach South Africa, a country that, despite its own flaws, offers a better chance than the collapsing economies and dictatorships surrounding it. No sane man wakes up and decides to be an illegal miner or a border jumper. He does it because hunger gnaws at his stomach, because the oppressive regimes back home choke him like a noose. And here's the crux of the matter. South Africa can keep closing its borders, building taller fences, and passing harsher immigration laws. But all that does is push the problem deeper underground. Literally, in this case. You cannot legislate away desperation. It's like squeezing a balloon. The more pressure you apply in one area, the more it bulges somewhere else. The real solution isn't more laws or tighter border patrols. It's regional solidarity and political courage. South Africa, instead of shutting its gates, should be championing the fight against dictatorship and misrule in SADC, Southern African Regional Development and Reconstruction Committee. SADC, the so-called regional body that has turned into nothing more than an old boys fraternity, where presidents pat each other on the back while their countries burn. How many statements of concern have we heard? How many toothless resolutions? The club's motto seems to be, do nothing and do it together. If South Africa really wants to address the crisis of illegal immigration, it must push SADC to grow a backbone. There should be no sanctuary for despots. Human rights violations, rigged elections, and economic mismanagement must be condemned, not with polite words, but with real consequences. Imagine if regional leaders actually had the moral courage to confront the failures of governance that force people to flee. Wouldn't that be something? Until that day comes, here's the truth we must confront. People will keep coming. They will crawl through barbed wire, swim across crocodile-infested rivers, and dig tunnels into forbidden mines if they think it will buy their families a better tomorrow. Instead of wasting resources trying to stop the inevitable, South Africa should embrace its neighbors, build humane immigration policies, and work toward regional stability. After all, when your house is the only one with food in a starving village, locking the door only creates thieves. Sharing the meal builds community. So, dear South Africa, the choice is yours. Be the shining light of hope in a dark region, or keep digging trenches and wondering why the desperate keep coming. In the depths of Stilfontein mine, the hunger for survival met the brutal hand of law and order, and what emerged was a tragedy soaked in the tears of broken families and the silence of cold, lifeless bodies. In a dark standoff between police and desperate miners, the earth revealed its deadly toll. Scores of men who clawed for life with bare hands, only to be pulled back into death's unrelenting grip. They came from places where hope is just a word, countries crushed by dictatorship, poverty, and despair. For them, South Africa was more than a destination. It was a last chance at dignity, a breath of freedom that came too late. When the food aid finally arrived, it was not an act of kindness, but a funeral feast for those who had already perished beneath the weight of injustice. The laws of men stood tall as survivors begged for air, and the world watched as the powerful justified indifference with rules, while the powerless paid the price with their lives. And now, as the dust settles and tears fall like rain, the question remains, was it justice or a crime against humanity? Because sometimes the most haunting thing about death is not the silence it leaves behind, but the voices that were never heard. And that's your Zimwaves TV commentary. Don't forget to hit subscribe.